We fundamentally reject the court's decision to issue arrest warrants for senior Israel officials. We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision.
Yeah, that was White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre rejecting the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants recently issued for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, as well as a senior Hamas official believed to have been killed. All three are accused of war crimes during and after the October 7th terrorist attacks on Israel last year. Republican senators have joined in rejecting the allegations, like Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, who's threatening for the U.S. to invade Holland to protect Israeli government officials from being arrested, believe it or not. And Senator Lindsey Graham warns the U.S.'s allies that if they attempt to enforce it, the U.S. will, quote, crush your economy. It's one thing for politicians who are thousands of miles away from Gaza to reject these war crimes allegations. My next guest, though, however, is a firsthand witness to the horrors in Gaza. Dr. Richard Villar is a war surgeon who has deployed to central Gaza as part of a humanitarian mission 5 months into the war. His experiences are the subject of his upcoming book, Gaza Medic, A War Surgeon's Story, 2024, where he offers a firsthand account of working in the war zone and treating patients, including many women and children. In it, he writes, the Palestinians are dropping like flies. I hear the casualties screaming outside our door, the orphan children crying, the widowed mothers wailing, the fathers cursing, and I realize that soon we must be active in the operating theater. Dr. Richard Villar, author of Gaza Medic, A War Surgeon's Story 2024, joins me now. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for writing this book and sharing it with the world. As I mentioned, this book is out next month. It is a powerful account that you've put together on what you saw in central Gaza. Tell us a little bit about the main takeaway of what you saw and why you decided to write this book.
Well, hello, and thanks very much indeed for allowing me to speak. Look, Gaza was a huge life experience, and it is an absolute human tragedy unfolding before our very eyes. I went to Gaza simply because I suppose I don't want to say to my grandchildren, I didn't help. I am a surgeon. I deal with individuals who are injured. I happen to have spent much of my life in war zones. Gaza unquestionably was the worst of the worst. You are operating in very primitive circumstances. You are seeing injuries that really you can only dream about. You've probably never seen before. You're dealing largely, in my particular case, with children and women and elderly, and you just keep going. When you're there, you do the very best you can. You form part of a team. We have teams going there all of the time. I guess it's when you come back, and here I am speaking to you from UK, it's when you come back that you realize what you have been immersed in.
Well, let me ask you about that. What struck me in what you write is also about the dangers that you faced, as well as the horrors that you saw. You write about how you made peace with your maker if you never made it home to London and you had a pile of documentation in your apartment ready to be retrieved by others if the worst happened. Reflect on that for us, if you can.
When you go to a war zone, I'm ex-military and I'm now civilian, and I've had a long orthopedic career. You generally do not expect to be at the wrong end of a weapon. You are so busy treating the injured, you don't concern yourself where they come from, who they are, what age they are, what gender they are. None of that concerns you. All you are doing is doing the very best you can. You do not expect to be put in the line of danger yourself. It makes a material difference to you when you realize you cannot fulfill the totality of what you try to do the best you can at, simply because it is a dangerous place to be. Gaza, when I was there, was a free-fire zone and remains that way. Where I was told I would be safe, I would not necessarily be safe. I just simply had to do the best I could.
Based on what you have seen firsthand and how the world has seen Gaza through the media coverage, do you believe the world, the media, are accurately understanding and reflecting the realities of the horror inside Gaza?
Look, I'm a surgeon, and I am but one window on a tragedy. I was a part of an English charity and also an American charity. We were there together at the same time, so we had individuals from right around the world, and each of us feels, I think, both then and now, that we are not getting a full and accurate reflection within the media of what is happening in Gaza as we speak.
Yeah, and I wanted to highlight this one passage in the book in how you saw Gaza and how it's being reported on and being clamped down on. You write, quote, "Within Israel, the media were mostly publishing the IDF version of events unchallenged, and the left-wing newspaper Haaretz had been threatened with financial penalties for sabotaging Israel in wartime." Your words were prophetic. I mean, today the Israeli government approved a proposal that would impose sanctions on Haaretz and mandate any government-funded body refrain from communicating with them or place advertisements in the paper. I just wanted to get your reaction to that, and how do you think that'll hinder Israelis understanding what's happening in Gaza?
Look, I can't speak for the absolute precision of what you said, but at the end of the day, you need media available to give as accurate an impression of what is going on as is possible. In the same way as you need medics like me to give as accurate a treatment as is possible. Each of us plays our tiny part in the totality. So anything that muzzles media has to be highlighted, and we simply do the best we can.
I know that you've said multiple times that you are a surgeon, but I do want to get your reaction. I mean, having seen the horrific suffering in Gaza firsthand, and one of the few people that we can actually speak to who has done that, what do you think when you see the White House reject the ICC arrest warrants for Netanyahu, or vetoing a UN Security Council that would have ended this war?
Look, I'm going to be slightly awkward. I'm not going to answer the question quite as clearly as you'd like, simply because I am really a surgeon, and there are surgeons there as we speak. I like to be given as free a hand as possible. I do not like to think of any warfare being undertaken, and the type of warfare I have seen in Gaza is simply not up to the par. It is in no shape or form acceptable. That's all I would say, and that is me, myself, personally speaking.
Yeah, no, and fair enough. I certainly appreciate that. So let me ask you finally then, if I can, one of the points that you brought up earlier, which is based on your own personal experience as a surgeon who has been in many war zones, why was this the worst that you had ever seen?
When you think about it, you're not getting resupplied. You are a target yourself. And I suppose at the end of all this is the utter lack of medical supplies. So in essence, you are a glorified first aider. And secondly, it really is that you should not be a target yourself. You should have free access as widely as you can, whilst the various parties try to reach the end of a disagreement they've had for a very long time indeed.
All right, Dr. Richard Villar, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us and giving us this firsthand account.